All right. All right, let's get this party started. How thrilling to see this many of you jump onto the call and with so much energy as well. The folks are still coming in, so I don't want to get started too fast, but I just want to welcome everyone who showed up today. And encourage you to put your name and where you're coming from in the chat, and as well the indigenous lands that you're calling in from. If you don't know which territory you're calling in from, there is a website, native-land.ca, that'll tell you where you're calling in from. It's a very useful, helpful thing that we should all know anyway. There's still folks trickling in, so I actually might give it another minute because it's a lot for a Zoom call. We have an amazing group of folks to speak to today, and it's just going to be, I think, a really positive, inspiring, energizing space for us to prepare for and kick off the long road, but not that long road ahead to Avi's inevitable win in March. Okay, so we've hit 600 folks now. Let's get started. Folks are still trickling in, but welcome everyone. My name is Anjali. I am a climate justice activist, a longtime friend and supporter of Avi's, and someone who is very excited. Oh, did I just mute myself? Welcome, everybody. Let's get this party started. So my name is Anjali. I am a climate justice activist and a longtime friend and supporter of Avi's. I'm very excited about the opportunity that we have here today, an incredibly important opportunity that we have to seize because it is everything's lining up. The timing and the moment in history that we're at, everything's lining up for a very resounding victory, a sorely needed victory on the left, and a very important moment for us as progressives and political folks here in so-called Canada. So wherever you're calling in from, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, everywhere in between, welcome to this, our first national big organizing call. And this call really is about big organizing because we're going to do it together. You are very much a part of this evening. It's not going to be us talking at you, although there are some incredible speakers on the lineup. It's going to be a lot of doing and participating together. So as I mentioned, please introduce yourself in the chat, introduce where you're coming from and the Indigenous lands from which you are calling. I'm calling in from unceded Coast Salish territories, the lands of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. For me and my work as a climate justice activist, I can't even express how deeply Indigenous-led resistance has informed my practice of activism and of just being an engaged person on these lands. That resistance and the host nations have just taught me and informed me in such countless and significant ways, politically, spiritually, intellectually, and they've taught me that everything we do on these lands, even though so much of it is remote and on the internet and in these networked ways, it all is still happening on land, on this land that we can stand on and that we live from and that we cannot live without. And relationship to land is at the root of so many political struggles and arguably all political struggles. And it's that deep respect and that reciprocity that I've learned from watching Indigenous land defenders hold off some of the biggest industries in the world, despite generations of colonial suppression. And it's something that we all need to have as the basis of our organizing and the basis of our work here today, even though we are talking about how to win in a colonial government. It doesn't matter that our politics has to still be rooted in that Indigenous inspired and led notion of relationship to land and reciprocity. So let's keep that in mind today. We'd love to hear which territories you're calling in from as well. Okay, so today is the big organizing call. Tonight is about building something together. As I said, it's not just watching, it's doing. And this is how mass movements win. And we need a mass movement to win this in March. All of us have to take action together, and all of us have to embrace this practice of big organizing that has been used by some of our most successful social movement leaders over the last few decades. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we kick off the big organizing call. Accessibility. So if you would like closed captioning for the call, there is a button at the bottom of your screen. You might have to click the little three dots that say more, and there is an option for captions. So please do use that if you would like closed captioning for today. And for tech support, if you're having any problems with your Zoom or if you're having trouble hearing anybody, please send a chat message to a user in this call labeled LFL tech support. So if you go to your chat messaging function and you use the drop-down menu, there should be a name there that says LFL tech support. It should be in alphabetical order. So please do chat with them, and there's a number of people on deck to support you to have the best experience possible for the call tonight. All right. More housekeeping. Well, actually, a language note. Our French organizing call is coming soon. And here's an example of big organizing. So if you want to host a session in any other language or in your community specifically, Avi's team can make that happen for you. So email Avi's team at organize@lewisforleader.ca. So that's organize@lewisforleader.ca. And somebody should be putting that in the chat right now. And there is multi-language support. So if you really want to have one of these calls in your community to hear all your aunties and uncles be able to learn from Avi and about this campaign, please take advantage of that. We need to be present in communities across the land from coast to coast to coast. And about recording, we are recording this session, so you don't necessarily need to take notes. And we are also live streaming the session. So someone should drop a link for the live stream as well. All right. So I've named this as the big organizing call multiple times thus far. And let's dive a little bit into what is big organizing. Big organizing is when the members of the movement become organizers themselves. It's a distributed leadership model, and it's been used to great effect by people like Bernie Sanders. It's currently being used by Zoran Mamdani. Big organizing to me is about believing in the inherent competence of people. As someone who's worked in a lot of NGOs and in the NGO sector for a long time, I am very well aware that NGOs can sometimes have the tendency to infantilize people or to talk to us like we can only understand very simple concepts. And big organizing is the opposite of that. It says, hey, let's do this thing together. I don't have a precise set of instructions for you because I'm not your boss, but here's what we're trying to achieve together. Let's get creative. I trust you. Big organizing is about trust. If we don't trust each other in this movement, if we don't trust each other's inherent brilliance, creativity, and expertise, we won't be able to win. Because on the other side of the win, we need a movement that continues to trust each other, to be bold and brave enough to have difficult conversations together and to continue to organize together. It doesn't end with Avi's win. So big organizing is the organizing principle that this team is using. And in order for that to work, we need everybody on board. So thank you to Avi's team for that. So we're not just here to listen on this call, we're here to act. And throughout the evenings, one way that we'll practice that is we'll use the chat. Please be as active as possible in the chat because that shows that you're engaged with your fellow organizers. We're going to use polls and we're going to take concrete actions together. So that's what building power looks like. It's bit by bit, brick by brick, chat by chat. So let's test this out with a poll. We're going to use the first poll to see where we're at. And the question is, have you joined the NDP? So go ahead and fill out the poll. Okay. This is looking pretty good. And if you feel that the poll doesn't really, there's a secret fourth option, feel free to use the chat to discuss. Wow. Okay. A number of issues coming up in the chat with membership. So this is really good to know for the organizers. We got to take care of each other and make sure that we're all able to get our memberships in a timely way. So the question for the poll, if you can't view it, is have you joined the NDP? And the three options are yes, I'm a longtime member, or yes, I bought a membership to support Avi, or no, but I'll become a member today so I can support Avi. If you have a different answer, go ahead and use the chat. All right, so it looks like, wow, we have a majority of folks here who are longtime NDPers, over 300 people. So thanks, folks, for being here and for taking your faith in the party and putting it in Avi. I think that's a very, very wise decision. And thanks for sticking with us through everything. And this is also pretty incredible. Not far behind are folks who bought a membership to support Avi. So that is incredible as well. By the end of tonight, I hope that we will be able to expand that list of folks who bought memberships for Avi and build that foundation for the big organizing ahead. So thanks for filling out the poll. Every single one of these memberships is a vote for the kind of politics our party and our country needs. So let's keep the energy going, and let's hope that the next hour or so can inspire you if you haven't bought a membership yet. Uh, Pretty incredible. So I want to move on to our speakers so that you can hear from some incredible folks who have been doing big organizing and who will be able to speak to it in a much better way. So our first speaker tonight absolutely knows what big organizing looks like on the ground. So Nas Yadollahi. Nas is a trade unionist and organizer. In 2024, she was elected president of CUPE Local 79, which is the largest union local in the country, representing 30,000 people. As president, Nas led the recent contract negotiations with the City of Toronto, winning an unprecedented agreement that, among other things, eliminated minimum wage jobs from city employment and achieved unprecedented wage increases for the lowest wage workers. Her commitment to the working class struggle is rooted in worker solidarity, our shared humanity, and the pursuit of justice, fair wages, and safe, affordable living for all. Welcome, Naz. It's an honor to meet you and an honor to have you on the call. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Anjali, and thank you everyone for taking time and joining us. And it really is wonderful to be amongst so many incredible folks tonight. I will just say that one of the things that I read somewhere once is that the most valuable thing that people can give you is their time. And if you are not nervous about that time that you're taking up, that you're actually giving people something worthwhile, then there's a problem. So I just want everyone to know I am nervous, as there's almost 700 people on this call, and I hope that I make the next few minutes worth your while, as you have given of your time. As Anjali said, I represent workers in the city of Toronto. As of today, actually, we got updated numbers. We represent 31,700 workers across different spaces in the city of Toronto. We cover everything from healthcare, housing, and all aspects of public service. Sorry, let me just start by saying that I am here on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunees, and the Wendat peoples, now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I want to start by talking a little bit about how I ended up here. I have not been a member of the NDP probably since the days of Jack Layton, or maybe even before that. The reason for that is that there was no reason for me to get excited or feel a sense of being inspired by this party for some time, and it felt like it was a lot of the same things that were happening over and over again, and there was a lack of commitment to really anything. I feel like the party had gotten to a place where you didn't know which way it was going to flow. You actually didn't understand what it was committed to. It was not rooted in anything that was meaningful to people, and if it was, it felt like it was momentary. And just as people were starting to get excited about something, things would shift and change, or where it would deflate people. That has been most telling in the past few years, as this party has started to lose traction, and lose really the commitment of the people who created it in the first place, and that is the working people of this country. And I think what got me excited was this idea that we could actually have a party that is going to be led by somebody who is rooted and grounded in politics, that is puts people first, puts working class people first, understands what people need, and is able to be unwavering, whatever that means, be unwavering in that commitment. And I will just say that um, the definition of insanity is sometimes doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So for me, getting behind status quo where the NDP is concerned is a hard no. I don't believe that the status quo is going to take us in a direction that is different than the one where we already are in. And so I think change needs to happen, and it needs to happen drastically. And yes, sometimes that change means that it needs to come from a fresh perspective from outside of the party, because those who have been inside the party for a long time are there, they're upholding the party lines and are unable to shift their perspectives. Um, so for the first time, 5 weeks ago now, I feel like every time I have these conversations, I have to remember that this is not 2 weeks ago. So about 5 weeks ago, I purchased my membership for the first time in maybe 20 years to join the NDP. And that was because Avi's running, and it was the first time that I felt any kind of hope in this party showing up for the working class people of this country. And I hope that what this does is at least inspire some folks to think about what they want this party to look like, and know that we get to shape it, right? We get to shape it. We get to insist on what it needs to look like, and we get to take control. I think for a long time, people have been kind of removed because they have felt like it doesn't matter. I apologize for my dog barking. Um, sorry, I was kind of hoping that wouldn't happen during this session. I want to talk a little bit about solidarity and collective organizing and why these things matter. Um, Look, we can't build something if we don't believe in it, as Anjali said earlier. And meaningful collective organizing means that we need to have one-on-one conversations with each other. We need to actually take the time and care and patience to sit down and listen to each other and hear what the concerns are. Oftentimes we lose people because we don't do that, because we don't take the time. I don't know how many times I've heard workers who were disgruntled with the union, I'll put in quotations. And when you actually take the time to sit and listen to their concerns, you actually can come to this realization that their concerns are valid, that they have every reason not to trust their union. They have every reason to be disgruntled. But there's an opportunity there to talk about how you can do things differently, or how you are doing things differently, and create space so people can offer something. Now, I will say that offering a space for people to be heard also means that you have to be responsive. Just listening to people and then going on about your business and doing what it is that you were going to do anyways is wasting people's times. It does not get you anywhere in the long run, and it ends up creating a relationship of distrust and mistrust, and it doesn't end up creating success in the long run. So I think it's really important that I'm going to just check and see. You've got 712 people on this call that all, if everyone really takes this as personally as I hope we're going to take it, that we're able to build out the 712 to a number that we need to get to call Avi the leader of the national NDP in March. But it really does require every single person doing their due diligence. And especially, I will say, roping in those young voters. I think what the conservatives and the liberals keep doing is they keep taking our young people and with narratives that seem attractive to them. Yes, in the long run, it's destructive, but we really need to get to our young people. We need to get to folks who understand what is at stake and start to organize them as well. So don't forget about the young folks in your lives and in your communities. I've started to talk to my 18-year-old who will not be able to vote, but they have friends that can vote, right? So keep the conversations going. I don't think there's a space too small or a conversation that is not worth it to have. Um, the labor movement is an interesting place. It's where we see working class people struggling. It's where we really see the cost of living and how it's impacting people. And we see how it's impacting our most vulnerable. One of the things that has been to the detriment of us in the past few months has been this new uh, our new prime minister who came in quite strong and use the distraction of elbows up from down south to create this energy of this sense of urgency that we need uh, to act, and we need to all, link arms and raise our elbows, and that distracted people from realizing or forgetting and momentarily that we have been in a crisis long before Donald Trump came into power. We have been in a crisis in this country long before tariffs were ever a conversation. Nobody has been addressing the crises that are facing everyday working people in this country, but everybody, including union leadership, everybody was really quick to jump on the elbows up bandwagon. And it was nothing but a distraction. It is nothing but a distraction. So much of this government's policies has been anti-worker. It has been anti-working class. And it has not been very different than the person that everybody was, seen as, no, if the conservatives win, there's going to be this huge concession that's made by the people of this country. In my mind, it is no different. It is no different now than it would have been then. And unfortunately, the National Democratic Party of this country was unable to build the kind of momentum and power that it needed to counter the kind of politics that we're facing right now. So I think we're done with empty promises. I think what we need, though, is to be committed to politics that is rooted in a deep moral conscience that doesn't leave anyone behind and is unwavering in upholding its commitment to the working class people of this country. And I'm thinking about, I'm a single mom of two. My son's 18, my daughter's 13. And I just was recently looking for apartments. And there is no such thing, I want us to be clear, there is no such thing as affordable housing in this country. It is not affordable to the single mom who has to take care of her children. It is not affordable. It is not, having to wait years, if not over a decade, on a wait list to get housing is not what we call affordable housing. It is not what is accessible. People can't afford food. People can't afford housing. People can't afford to take care of their young people or the elderly, frankly. So I think what we need to consider here is approaching this with a mindset that we are actually here to shift things and change things and do something differently, and create a space where we are going to be committed to the things that we do. And I actually don't think we have any other choices. I don't think we have any other options. I think if we don't seize this moment to build something out that is meaningful, we will have missed a great opportunity. And again, I'll use myself as an example as someone who has completely separated myself from party politics because, like, what the F are we doing? And I am choosing in this moment to be hopeful. I'm going to lean into hope. I'm going to lean into, there is something here that we can do. We don't have to be distracted. We don't have to get distracted. What we can do instead is get focused over here and try to build a movement that is going to continue to grow, a movement that is going to attract our young people back, a movement that is going to hand this party back to the working class people of this country, and a movement that's going to build outside of the NDP and into the labor movement and beyond. So I hope that you're as excited as I am. And let's do this together. Thank you.
Oh, Naz, you are so inspiring, and you just do it with such humility and grace. No big deal, just organizing 30,000 workers and winning. So thank you so much. You've shown us what winning looks like and what bringing people in a compassionate and inspiring way looks like. And really loved that, you talked about talking to people face to face and one-on-one, and that is such a core basic principle of organizing that we can never forget. It's evergreen. And Naz just bought her first NDP membership in 20 years to support Avi. A leader of 30,000 workers is joining the movement to support Avi. And I think that says a lot about how important this opportunity is at this moment in time for the NDP and for the whole country. Um, and this is how we win big, by recognizing the opportunity and by jumping in when we know it's the right thing to do. So let's put that into practice and let's jump in. Let's take a moment together. We saw earlier tonight that I think it was 13% of the people in this room haven't gotten NDP membership yet. And I know some of you are waiting and observing, but I know that some of you have been inspired already. And so let's follow Naz's leadership, and let's right now together take a moment to dive in and get those memberships. So thank you so much once again, Naz, for your incredible analysis and for just your warmth and inspiring us with your leadership. So let's do what Naz did. Here's a QR code, and let's take a couple minutes right now to, there's also a link in the chat. If you don't have an NDP membership yet, if you don't have an active one, and if you've seen enough from Avi, and if you know that you want to join this movement and join this momentum that we're creating over the next few months to change the course of Canadian politics, sign up now and let's take a couple minutes to do that. Once you've done that, if you hadn't already, please drop it in the chat so that we can celebrate you. Just put I'm a member in the chat. We have Sarah Lowe's. Nice. You already did it. That's incredible. Sav, thanks for signing up on the spot. This is pretty incredible. Oh, so many people have already signed up. This is incredible. We have 720 people on this call. That's coast to coast to coast. And this is just the first big organizing call. Xander just joined 5 minutes ago. That's incredible. We're so lucky to have the speakers that we have today. Yes, amazing. So many people have joined already, or just joined recently, or joined during the course of this call, or have been a member for a long time. So we hope that any of you who haven't signed up will be inspired to do so before the end of this call. Don't forget, we have a number of incredible speakers to go, including Avi Lewis himself. Okay, this is incredible, folks. There's just so much energy in this chat. I'm so grateful and happy to be here with all of you. Okay, so wow, we have already increased the membership base to vote for Avi by so many people active in the chat. So that's what happens when we organize together. That's what happens when we just decide to do something together, make a clear ask and make it happen. And this is only the first call, as I said. So I look forward to seeing this ball continue to gain momentum. So I want to move to our next speaker. If you're still signing up or navigating the website, you can continue to do so. And remember, if you need help with anything, just chat to the LFL tech support or put it in the chat and someone will be right with you because we want to make sure that you're supported to buy membership, navigate the whole system. The technical issues should not be the barrier to this at all. All right, our next speaker uh, is incredible. He connects the struggle for justice here at home with the struggle for justice around the world. It's Adel Iskandar, and Adel is someone I've looked up to for a long time. His work has really inspired me. He's made connections between movements and struggles all around the world, and really grounds us and roots us in why this small fight, relatively small fight, is actually connected to a much broader struggle for liberation. And that's why it's so important for us to be engaged in this way. Adel is a scholar, an organizer, a Palestinian activist. He's an associate professor at Simon Fraser University and the director of the Center for Comparative Muslim Studies. Some of you might know Adel from his book, Al Jazeera, The Story of the Network That Is Rattling Governments, the network where Avi worked as a journalist covering movements for justice across the globe. Adel knows that our fight for justice at home and the fight for Palestinian liberation are inseparable. So please welcome Adel Iskandar.
Thank you so much, Anjali. What an incredibly generous and kind introduction that was. I'm very fortunate, grateful, and honored to be here today. It's an extraordinary occasion to be talking with everybody here and to see the community come out in large numbers and I mean, I can see the Free Palestines popping up on the screen. I mean, it's very, very heartwarming. I'll just offer one quick note of clarification. I'm a Palestine activist, but not a Palestinian. But as many activists will, and many of us who are in solidarity with Palestinians recognize that being in solidarity makes us Palestinians not biologically, but in spirit. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm hoping that nothing I say today is perceived as an opinion of a Palestinian, but rather someone who has committed themselves to the cause from a very early point. I want to start off by saying that I'm joining you today from the unceded and stolen territories and erased and effaced territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and other Coast Salish nations on the west coast of the country. I say this because it is a recognition of my own settler involvement in this project. Settler colonial history, it needs to not only be acknowledged and recognized, but reckoned with. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission has taught us that we need to start off by not only reckoning with our own legacies, but how it is that on a daily, monthly, weekly, annual basis, we're contributing to a settler colonial project. I came to this country as a teenager to Mi'kmaq territories in colonial Nova Scotia, and ever since I arrived here, I knew full well from the outset that the NDP spoke to me as a human being, as an individual, as an aspiring person who wants to do good in this country and wants to live in dignity. It was the time of Alexa McDonough, for those of you who happen to remember that time. I never felt that any of the other two parties reflected the ethos and the values of a country that my family came to build a home in. I've also followed the party's ebbs and flows, the peaks and troughs, and seen how vital it is for a party to remain principled on the issues that matter to them. Now, I understand that politics sometimes does not serve us, and in many instances, the individuals that we bring to the fore do not speak our language nor prioritize the things that we take seriously. But there's someone that from the outset, from the very first time that I laid eyes on this individual, I recognized that even if he wasn't in politics, there is something that spoke to me and many others, especially those of us who are of the same generation and beyond. My first encounter with Avi was as a very, I mean, I was a very young person, as was he. He is still kind of younger than I am, I think, or I don't know. Who knows and who cares about these things anymore? We're young at heart. But I remember watching him on Much Music, and at the time witnessing how Avi is capable of trailblazing journalism among youth in a way that I've never seen before. I didn't quite understand what it means for one to be a journalist at such a tender age and to be doing this work with such incredible veracity and a real commitment to the values of journalism, accuracy, public interest, serving the collective good, knowledge production, all the things that really matter about journalism that have since been completely abolished and are nowhere to be found. Today, with the consolidation of power and the corporatization and conglomerization of media, there's almost nothing left of the institution that we need so dearly, the fourth estate that holds politicians to the fire. This is essentially gone, especially south of the border, and it has repercussions for all of us here. At the time, Avi was pushing the envelope, speaking truth to power, and really swimming against the tide. My personal claim to fame was in the early 2000s when I almost got booked on CBC's blockbuster show, The Big Picture, that was hosted by Avi, to talk about my co-authored book about Al Jazeera. I mean, I have to say, I really lament that to this day. I'm like, I wish I was on that show. It was like my one opportunity lost. In retrospect, I ended up being on Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect, and I actually don't understand why that happened, and I wish that had never happened. I would much rather have been on Avi's show. Later, I watched Avi do extraordinary things in journalism on Al Jazeera's Fault Lines and other programs that shook up the journalistic landscape in the United States and in the Anglophone world. Thinking about journalism and what Avi has done to become emblematic of the values and the principles of that profession at a time when journalism is being hijacked, appropriated, consolidated by conglomerates, as I said, and companies that don't have our interest in mind, this is a reminder that an individual like Avi is not afraid to push the boundaries. This is work that he's been doing from the outset, from the moment that he came into being in the public light. He's always been looking for the most vulnerable and the most precarious to act on behalf of, to speak on behalf of, and to support and to create a platform. There's nothing like going back and watching those perhaps grainy videos of Avi passing on the microphone to individuals who would otherwise not get a platform, or quite the contrary, where he'd turn around to those with power, with a platform, and with consolidated control and challenge them on the things that matter most and grilling them in a way that is consistent with the most basic mantra of real journalism. Those are few and far between now. I can't think of another show that does that anymore. And I think most of those journalists are either extinct or on their way out. Today, Avi has become an extraordinary educator at the University of British Columbia. I'm envious of the conversations that he is stirring inside the classrooms in this time of fascism, ethno-nationalism, racism, bigotry, classism, anti-justice, you name it. These are conversations that need to be happening on a nationwide scale, which is why Avi Lewis is the best person to place these issues on the agenda as leader of the NDP. But why is Avi so special? Today's conversation is highlighting so many of his contributions, and you'll be hearing from others, including from Avi, but his potentials and what he stands for. And while what I've felt that I've known about Avi for years came into the spotlight over the last couple of years, more specifically. After 2 years of genocide in Gaza, Avi and I have brainstormed, organized, strategized, cried, lamented, commiserated, rejoiced, laughed on some very few occasions, and become truly inspired by the spirit of collective action on Palestine, and especially his indefatigable spirit. On Palestine, Avi has stepped up at a time when so many people had fallen silent. I've seen him as a member of the Jewish Faculty Network and is a vibrant voice in independent Jewish voices over the past couple of years. He's inspired so many to come out and share their views, their reflections, their commiseration, their melancholy. He's allowed us to channel all that. But the things that really make Avi very special is that he is a nuanced individual. He understands the precision and the specificities of knowledge and history. For one, you will very rarely hear an individual like Avi come forward and talk about the history of the Nakba since 1948, understanding that the history did not start on October 7th, to stand staunchly against apartheid, against occupation, recognizing the gradual and continuous ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Also, his solidarity, standing for what's right, irrespective of personal consequences. And trust me, Avi has had to deal with so many stigmas and targeting, so much tarnishing of his public image, showing up every single time despite all of that at events, rallies, petitions, lectures, seminars, webinars, you name it. He's always there. And he's always there because he believes that this is the right thing to do. And then finally, his compassion. Avi has a heart of gold and he wears his heart on his sleeve. This is something that is unquantifiable and immeasurable. Very few, if any, politicians will look you in the eye and speak to your heart and lay their heart in front of yours. He is not afraid to show his true colors and his true feelings. We've shed tears together over the last couple of years, and that alone has spoken to the incredible integrity and trueness of Avi Lewis. Now, you don't have to take my endorsement of Avi to mean anything. Uh, but you can take the words of the great professor, Dr. Cornel West, who, upon his arrival here in Vancouver just a few months ago, took the time to appear on the coast on CBC and share his very strong support and endorsement and sponsorship and commitment to Avi Lewis and what Avi represents. Avi is an extraordinary leader, a person of great vision, and an individual of remarkable integrity on the things that matter most. And there is no situation and no circumstance and no issue more central to our decision making as a collective populace, not just in this country, but around the world, more so than justice in Palestine. We have all been witnessing a slow grade, daily live streamed genocide that has literally eviscerated our affect and broken our hearts. And we've witnessed this, and now we're witnessing the complete erasure of any justice movement to transform this. Today, Avi, like very few others within the political arena, are standing up for accountability, for justice, and for truth and reconciliation for Palestinians and Israelis to come together in such a way that allows them to cohabitate and coexist, but with the center and the core being justice and accountability. And that alone is a very courageous posture and stance at a time that we need the most. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here. I want to thank you, Avi, for taking the plunge. It's not for the faint of heart. And I want to salute you and I wish you well. And may we all rise together. Thank you.
Oh, Adil, trust you to just bring so much heart to this. You really spoke truly from the heart and with such truth. Um, yeah, you can't, your truth just resounds from you. So thank you for that. Thank you for those connections. And also, I didn't know that you had such a deep history with Avi and had been comrades for such a long time. So yeah, thank you so much. Always love to be in a room with you, Adil. And I think what Adil said was really, really powerful. That now is an age to have moral clarity. Like, we can no longer afford not to have that moral clarity and that backbone and that willingness to speak the truth that is real. And we are so grateful that Avi has done that time and time again and has shown that moral clarity, especially over the last 2 years of a live stream genocide. We can afford nothing less, and I would absolutely not be supporting any kind of leader in this day and age who hadn't found it within themselves to use their platform to speak that truth. So thanks, Adel, for all your work and for your comments as well. And so before we hear from Mr. Lewis himself, let's do one more poll. So we had folks signing up if they hadn't been NDP members before, but we talked about big organizing before, and big organizing is about everybody in the movement bringing in new people to the movement. So this poll is about how many members can you sign up? How many members can you sign up to join the NDP to elect Avi? And this is a critical part of our movement together, an absolutely critical part of getting those numbers up. Avi's team is, mighty but small, and no one candidate can ever do it on their own. It takes a mass movement. It takes big organizing. Wow, to the folks in the chat who have already signed up, multiple people. Owen, that's incredible. A lot of really powerful organizers on this call right now. And we're talking folks from all walks of life, right? Your book club, your sports team, your parent group, your dog walking club. If you haven't already answered the poll, go ahead. I'm going to shout out some of these numbers. Okay. 3 to 5 is a very realistic and doable number for those who can commit to that. That's pretty incredible. Wow, there are some folks who have committed to signing up 25 plus people, and I commend you for that. These are super organizers. Jaeger, you have signed up 50 people so far. That is pretty incredible. Jordan, you're signing folks up at work. That's fantastic. That's real organizing. That's where organizing happens, in the places where you live your daily life. Pretty incredible. And it's so funny because sometimes when you sign up people, and I can speak from experience when I ran for the BC NDP leadership in 2022, sometimes you don't see the impact of that right away. All you do is organize to the extent of your ability, inspire people to the extent of your ability, and that power ripples outwards, and you don't see it till it all comes back to supercharge your movement. Okay, that's incredible, folks. I hope you consider this your pledge, your personal pledge for going forward. We have from now until March. And if every person that you recruit into this movement and convince to get a membership, if they also do the same, this will grow organically in a way that is so incredibly powerful. All right. So while we're doing that, I want to call upon our next speaker, who is one of the people I just adore most in the world and look up to most. She has spent decades documenting how power works, how it's abused, how we fight back. She is a master pattern seer, a master writer and thinker, and wonderful human. And she's Avi's partner in life and in movement building. I think we all know who I'm talking about. It is Naomi Klein. Naomi is an award-winning journalist and author of books that have shaped how we understand this moment: The Shock Doctrine, This Changes Everything, and most recently, Doppelganger, which is about navigating our chaotic and poisoned media landscape. Naomi, I'm going to hand it over to you. It's wonderful to see you.
So great to see you. Wonderful to see you, Anjali. What a turnout. Like you and Adel, I am speaking to you with great gratitude from the unceded and unsurrendered lands of the Musqueam people, the Tsleil-Waututh people, and the Squamish people. Anjali, you are an amazing host. You are also an incredible NDP candidate, and I look forward to that happening again and working on your campaign.
Thank you.
Yay, you heard it here. It's such a pleasure to be with you here with you and Nas and my pal Adel, folks who know how to organize and how to build and how to win. And these numbers on a Tuesday evening, over 700 people consistently, it's just amazing. And it speaks to the enthusiasm that has been building ever since Avi announced and before. And I just love to see it. And I know you all do. This is way better than doom scrolling and cursing at our screens as the federal liberals do their best to dismantle the hard-won victories of every left movement that came before us. We do not have to sit and seethe. We can get together, we can organize, we can make some new friends, and we can elect Avi Lewis as the next leader of the federal NDP. And we can show Canadians that there is another way, there is another path. So Anjali mentioned that I happen to be married to Avi Lewis. I want to say I would be here anyway, even if I wasn't married to him. But we have been together for almost 30 years. So there's so much that I would love for you to know about him. You know, for a lot of you, you know only his public persona. You've seen the videos, you see the interviews, and what an incredible communicator he is, and a champion of working people in this country. And you can see his righteous rage at the oligarchs, and all of that is true. He is also truly the most caring person that I have ever met in my life. And I am so lucky to have benefited from that over these 30 years. It is a huge part of what has allowed me to be who I am in the world, to, you know, write almost 10 books. I'm halfway through the 10th. And, you know, that's a really big deal for a guy to do that, right? And Avi is that caring person. He's the person who makes sure that our kid has the best possible lunch and breakfast. He did it this morning. And he, you know, this is me trying to be a real political wife here, to humanize the candidate, right? But it's so easy with Avi because this is really who he is, as you've heard from the other speakers. And that, I think, is exactly what is going to make him such an extraordinary political leader, politician, right? Because this is what we want. This is what we need, is politicians who actually care about people. And everybody who knows Avi knows that. You know, I hope his parents are watching right now. Stephen and Michelle, I know that just, you know, last week when Avi was in Toronto, he chased around in between campaigning, making sure that his dad had the exact sandwich that would make him happy when he had to be in the hospital. And that is Avi. He also is my first and most important reader. Nothing that I write goes out into the world without Avi reading it first. Don't blame him. Any errors are my own. But this has always been true, no matter what else is going on in our lives, or no matter where we are in the world, often not in the same place. And I know it seems strange to people who, you know, aren't political types, that politics could be so interwoven in our lives. But, you know, we're movement people. This is how we live. It's all enmeshed. And, you know, what that means is that we have to make sure that our politics is fun too. And the movement really is our family, it's our friends. And so we're very motivated to make politics fun. And I think that we've got a taste of that already from the way Avi is organizing. We're going to see a lot more of it. There's no other way I'd want to live. For 30 years, we have been having this never-ending conversation about how to win the world that we so desperately need, that all of the kids that we love deserve and need, a world that prioritizes art and friendship and fun and health and a healthy living world. We think about that all the time, and we think about how to beat the motherfuckers who are standing in our way. And I believe that right now, here in Canada, One way that we do that is we elect Avi as leader of the federal NDP, because we need to rebuild the left in Canada. We need to do it from the bottom up. We need a kind of a container for the various parts of our movement to come together and develop a shared vision for what this country can be to meet the pressing crises that we face. We have to show them that there are real alternatives to the far right politics of hate and the middle brow politics of greed and austerity, which right now look to a great many Canadians like the only two choices on offer, and that cannot stand. So with Avi, we will finally have an NDP that champions policies on the scale of the crises that we are facing. And we know what the crises are. They're climate breakdown, they're the impossible cost of living, they're disgusting wealth hoarding, they're rising fascism and open racism. And with Avi, we will have a voice that knows how to grab the media microphone and megaphone and bring people over to our side. Now, you've already seen what he can do in just a few weeks since announcing. He's forced our corporate-friendly media to talk about things like a public grocery option and say genocide way more than they want to. And that is just the beginning. So the stakes of this moment are tremendously high. I think we all know that. We have to be real about it. Earlier today, I did another webinar with Haymarket Books. It's part of a series that I do with my comrades Kianga Yamada Taylor, Astra Taylor, and Chenjerai Komanike. And this one was called Solidarity Against Sadism. And, you know, I was the only Canadian on the call, and we were talking about just the kind of public spectacles of sadism that are being normalized under Trump. The zip tying of parents in front of their kids in the middle of the night by ICE. The way the Trump administration used the Charlie Kirk assassination to wage a war on the left, or the war at home, as Kianga called it. The way that they are just openly trying to destroy post-secondary education because it is a competition for their lives. So this is where they're at south of the border. You know, and meanwhile, this is all distracting from the fact that the government has been turned into one giant Bitcoin bribery scam, hoovering money to Trump and his family in exchange for policies that poison the public and the planet. It is truly wild stuff. But what our friends south of the border know is that they would not be in this terrible place if their centrist party, the Democrats, had not let people down so deeply for so many years. You know, we could go on and on about all of the ways they've done that, but most recently with their active partnership in Israel's genocide, and also with their refusal to give Palestinians a voice at all in the campaign, and also with the fact that they had nothing real to offer to working people who are hurting and in pain. And this is a very old story about how corporate centrists roll out the red carpet for fascists. That's the truth. In Canada, we got very close to that happening here. The polls all showed that it was about to happen. And the only reason it didn't happen is because Trump scared the hell out of Canadians by threatening to invade us. And that consolidated the vote for the Liberals. But ever since, those Liberals have done their absolute best to replicate the exact same conditions that created the conditions for fascism in the United States. They're teeing it up for the next election. Unemployment is at its highest level since the pandemic. Canadians are drowning in debt, just trying to afford to live in this country. And the guy who promised to stand up to Trump is instead making concession after concession, and so far getting nothing in return. Watching him grovel is frankly humiliating. And this is the very familiar liberal trick, right? Make these vague progressive promises to get elected and make people feel good, followed by massive cutbacks, neoliberal austerity, and anti-climate policies once they're in power. Just in the last few months, we've had announcements about massive cuts for federal public services, the government's blessing to end door-to-door delivery at Canada Post. And last week, we saw Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Trump discussing reviving the Keystone XL pipeline. I take that personally. I was arrested trying to stop that pipeline. It just keeps coming back like a bad dream. That's not even getting into C5, the Liberal government's new bill that allows them to trample on Indigenous rights and environmental regulations and ram through projects that they decide are in the quote unquote national interest, such as expanding LNG production in the middle of a climate crisis. So, the point is that this is creating the conditions for us to end up where our neighbors are to the south. And this is an incredible betrayal. But I think people are here realizing that we are very lucky not to have a two-party system, and we have to stop acting like it. But we need our third party, our Labor Party, to really act like one and be a vehicle for the rage that is out there, that so people see that there are alternatives. And what Zoran has done in New York is show that some of the same people who voted for Trump are ready to vote for him if you're really offering economic populism. I've heard this framing about whether or not Avi is offering a big tent or not by talking about socialism. Socialism is the big tent. That is the point. These are called populist policies because they are popular, and this is how we build the broadest possible appeal. So I've been lucky as a writer and an organizer, particularly about climate, to have been brought into a few campaigns in moments when social movements have decided to really throw down for a politician who offers real promise. I was lucky to be a surrogate for Bernie Sanders to talk about his Green New Deal plan. I worked with the Corbyn campaign when they were developing what they called the Green Industrial Policy. I did a big phone bank for Zoran a couple of months ago during the primary. And what I can tell you about these experiences, which frankly have been some of the most exciting, if not the most exciting political moments of my life, is that it's never about the guy. It's never about the dude. No offense, Avi. It's about the way that these campaigns can create an infrastructure for us to come together. And so this isn't just about electing Avi as leader, though we need to do that, and we will do that. It's an invitation to rebuild the NDP into a genuine force for progressive organizing in Canada, which is something we desperately need if we are going to wrest this country back from the bankers, the oil companies and the corporate overlords of all kinds who have been running this place for far, far too long. So that's why I'm here. I want to welcome you all to the family. It's a big family. It's a growing family. It's a loving family, and we are going to have a lot of fun together. How else are we going to add this on top of everything that we have on our plates if we aren't going to make it fun? So that is what's great about this kind of big organizing model that Anjali has been talking about and that you've been a part of already, is the way in which we meet our comrades. We find our people, right? So we're going to do that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be fun. It's going to happen one phone call, one event, one canvas at a time. It's also going to happen one donation at a time, because one thing about this campaign is that it's a long one, and that's really important. That was part of good organizing, to make sure that this wasn't a rush job, that there really was time for the campaigns to crisscross the country and talk to Canadians and get their message out. But that's a pretty resource intensive thing to do. It requires an incredible team. There's such an amazing team around Avi right now. Just so grateful to Savannah and Barrett and Miles. And these folks are amazing. We need to pay them. It's going to take resources. So that's part of the organizing that we need to do is fundraising. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about how we do that. But just know that as we fundraise, that is a huge part of getting the message out. It's a huge part of being able to travel for Avi. It's a huge part of being able to make more amazing videos that people want to share with their friends. And yeah, so this is the first big organizing call, and there's going to be more. And I'm just so happy to be able to put the frustration, the anger, and the sense that there has to be another way. We're out there. Let's find each other. Let's lift each other's hearts and do this. Let's win.
Yes, Naomi, let's win. We need a win so bad.
So bad.
And so bad. And we're gonna get one. Tides are turning. And I loved how you talked about like how neoliberalism relies on actually popular policies to sort of be to be downplayed or to be third rails that we can't touch, like what Avi has been openly talking about: public grocery stores, reining in the power of corporations. These are things that are sort of poo-pooed or dismissed in the sort of like cultural vernacular of like the sort of capitalist neoliberal political class. And uh, they rely on that. They rely on us not openly talking about these things or naming them as the big tent. And what Avi is doing is just naming them and grabbing hold of that third rail and naming it as the set of policies that we actually want. The majority of Canadians actually want. Okay, so um, as Naomi said, this is an incredibly important part of the campaign. The campaign is very expensive. Avi needs to travel across the country. He needs to meet with groups, big and small, across the country. He needs to leave no one behind. And his team needs to be able to organize the millions and millions of people across the country who are going to want to get involved and who are going to want to hear from Avi. So let's consider this financial part of the campaign as something that is just part and parcel of winning. And we need to crowdsource our win. And every dollar we raise gets Avi to new places and to more Canadians. And it puts organizers on the ground. It gets the message out so that we can win the narrative war. It gets us out on the airwaves. And every donation, big or small, lets us knock on more doors, make more calls, reach more people, pay for all that infrastructure and scaffolding that any campaign of this scale is inevitably going to need. So we need to raise $100,000 just to pay the entrance fees for Avi, and that's the bare minimum. We need to raise much more than that in order to actually run a successful campaign. So if everyone here tonight gives what they can, whether that's $20, $50, $400, or the maximum, we will make a huge dent in that target before we even leave the room. And that's the way to do it, because once we scatter, life takes over. It's best if we just use the time here to all pitch in together right now. And that's how grassroots campaigns operate, and that's how we win. So it's not about a few people writing big checks. It's about us crowdsourcing our own victory. And also just a note on the tax credits of political donations. They actually come with very generous tax credits. So if you pay income tax, you can get up to 75% of your donation back at tax time. So that means if you donate, say, $100, that might actually only cost you $25. So take a moment to use the QR code or to pledge your donation in the chat. It's really inspiring to see folks who are pledging their donation. Love seeing all of these donation pledges roll in, and folks who have already donated. This is incredible. I think you're just really putting your money where your mouth is when it comes to winning this. I love how someone said they made a down payment on the campaign. Love that. I will let Avi's team clarify on tax credits for leadership campaigns, but from what I understand, you do get the tax credit because it's still a donation to the federal NDP. All right. Thanks for taking a moment. Someone in the chat mentioned that if we all 700 people on this call donate $100 right now, that's $70,000 already, and that's most of the way towards the entrance fee, which is incredibly high, way too high, but we got to do what we got to do. And while we're doing that, Naomi, I just want to say also, I loved how you spoke about Avi's big heart. And it just made me think about how the leaders that we need today and the leaders that I would support today are no longer the sort of male these huge male figures of the past who were incredibly inspiring and brilliant in public, and then kind of like assholes at home who relied on a lot of unpaid labor to make their brilliance actually happen. And we're just not in that time anymore, and Avi's just not that at all. And I've seen that in action, and you spoke to that so beautifully. So thanks for that as well.
Thanks, Anjali. I wouldn't put up with that nonsense.
Totally. Yeah, I think
I just want to say we also have double the number of people who tuned into the Haymarket call. And that's for all of the United States. They're tired down there.
Who do you love more? Just kidding. Naomi, you're amazing for being on multiple calls in a row. And some of the folks here on this call have followed you from the Haymarket call to this one.
Well,
Yeah,
let that motivate us to stop the fascists here.
That's right. That's right.
This is amazing, everyone. This is so beautiful to see.
And it's incredible that we've all stayed on the call together. We've lost
remarkable.
Very, very...
People are eating their dinner, they're chopping vegetables.
I love that. I love that. Let's do life together and stay engaged together. It's like
making muffins. Someone's making muffins. Yeah, multitask, right?
Putting your kids to bed. Love that.
East Coast.
Okay, well, what do you think, Naomi? Shall we bring
let's bring him out. Let's bring him out. Let's bring him out. Okay, I think people are ready to hear from Avi. I'm going to say bye. You do your thing. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Naomi.
I'm going to keep listening. Bye-bye.
Thanks for blessing us with your words as always. So now it's finally time to hear from the next leader of the federal NDP. That's right. This is a person who articulates the vision for the future that is deeply rooted in a bold eco-socialist vision that is kind, that is rooted in a care economy, that is rooted in care for the most vulnerable among us, that is unabashedly bold about naming genocide and naming corporate control and naming the murderous politics of the far right. Someone who has earned my trust in every way and is a incredibly bold leader who is perfectly suited for this moment. You have arrived, Avi, in every sense of the word. You are the leader that we need in this moment, and I'm very, very proud to be here with you. So,
stop.
without further ado,
this is thank you, Anjali. Wow, this is it's pretty emotional stuff, guys. I mean, to be on a call with 700 people and for my wife to say, it's not about you, dude, is that's worth the price of entry. I would have paid a high entry fee just for that. Anjali, you are the host with the most. You're so good at this, and I feel like you've wrapped this entire gathering in love from your heart, from your burning political passion. Nas, don't forget Nas, who started off. Nas, who is a new comrade and friend, who has lit up our campaign with incredible energy and a genuine union leader like the old school, who is defending some of the most vulnerable workers in the largest city in this country with incredible courage and vision. Naomi, Adel, most people don't know about Adel Iskandar, that he started as a dancer on Electric Circus. For those of you who don't know Electric Circus, just Google it right now. Go away from the webinar. Just go find out what Adel was doing as a young person. But Adel, you made me cry again, thinking about all the work that we've done together. And Naomi, of course, wrapping the whole thing in the holistic analysis for which you are rightly famous, and the heart. We've had a tremendous amount of emotion on this call, and I feel it. I've been reading the chat eagerly, and the thing that maybe moved me the most was the idea that we have a right to joy in the way that we organize, and that fun has to be embedded in this work. The world is grim. It is a cartoonish garbage fire of nastiness and evil all around us every day. These are the hardest times to be alive, and yet we have each other. In that spirit, we're going to do a lot of fun things on this campaign. I'm not going to spoil any of the surprises, but I will warn you that Dungeons and Dragons could be involved. That's just a little message out to my D&D people, among many other entertainments. But I'll just share a little story. I wasn't going to do this. This is normally something that Naomi makes me do at dinner parties, but I feel obliged. I was a kid I just remember a feeling of anger, uncontrollable rage at injustice. I remember the first time our class was collectively punished. Somebody had done something wrong, wouldn't fess up. The teacher made us all put our heads on our desks for like 15 minutes. And I was just seething. I couldn't understand the unfairness. And I think that core, which what I I just got it from the universe. I obviously got it from my family, from my sisters, my mom and dad. That's been a flame in me, and I've needed it because when I was a kid, I had a kind of disability myself. I had a lateral lisp, a very strong lisp, for the first decade of my life, and I went to a nursery school and I got asked a question in Scarborough, where I grew up, Scarborough, Ontario, a question that I would get many more times throughout the course of my life. Wow, dinner at your house, your mom's a columnist, your dad's a politician. It must be so fascinating. It must be such interesting dinner conversations. And I said, mostly we just talk about socialism. And that that candidness, I did figure out how to say S eventually through a little experiment in whistling through my teeth. That sense of just a matter of factness that we need to be here with all of our full selves is part of the work for me. It's inseparable from the mission. Alors, je voudrais dire bonsoir tout le monde. Je suis très heureux d'être ici avec vous tous et vous toutes. J'ai très hâte de lancer ma campagne au Québec dans quelques semaines. Il est temps de redonner vie au parti au Québec et aller à la rencontre des francophones partout au pays. C'est un travail à long terme, mais c'est un travail essentiel. I am launching my campaign in Quebec in a few weeks, a couple of weeks just now, and it's time to breathe new life into the NDP in Quebec and to reconnect with Francophone Canadians across the entire country. It'll be a long-term task. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's an essential work that we have to do, and I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it in French. What an incredible evening. 700 people joining a call that we just put out over a long weekend with barely a few days' notice. Wow. And this has been typical of the campaign energy so far. It has honestly been incandescent. We launched in Toronto on, I think it was September 18th. We launched the video. We had an event, an in-person event in Toronto just a few days later. And there were 300 people there. We went to the NDP, the Ontario NDP convention in Niagara Falls. We did a little side event with almost no notice. We sent out notice less than 48 hours before, I think. We had more than 100 people. I was standing on a chair with a megaphone that Chiara Padovani, an incredible organizer and campaign volunteer, was holding. We did another event in Ottawa a couple of days after that, another 300 people. We went to the Saskatchewan NDP convention and just handed out a few handbills and sent a couple of emails. And we had 120 or more people at our side event. People are ready for a new energy in politics, and it is driven by bottom-up change. I am running for leader of the federal NDP, and it is not about me. It's about building collective power. It's about everyone in this call and everyone in the connective tissue that unites our communities and our lives. It's about all of our organizing and all of our fates intertwined. It's about all of us, because we are at a historic moment, and it is fascism that we are fighting. As other speakers have said tonight, we can't say, oh, it can't happen here. That's the mistake that's been made throughout history. It can. And that's why we urgently need an alternative to a two-party system in Canada. We have the Liberals and the Conservatives now huddled on the right side of the spectrum. Carney and Poilievre obviously are very different kinds of politicians, and there are differences obviously in their policies. But for me, they're kind of the Loblaws and Sobeys of Canadian politics. On the outside, they appear to be competing furiously, but on the inside, in the back rooms, they are shoveling our money to their corporate buddies like as fast as they possibly can. There has never been so much space on the political spectrum, and there's never been so much need for a forthright party of the left. The NDP needs this new energy. I can feel the surge already beginning, and you are the surge. This is why we need to revitalize the NDP for this moment. We need a party that speaks in direct language about why life is so unaffordable and so unbearable, about what got us to this point, spoiler alert, capitalism. And we need to offer solutions in plain language that people understand and can grasp and can envision, can taste, and can feel. Solutions that are as big as the crises we face. We need straight talk. Genocide is happening. It's soul-shattering. It's horrible. It's even worse that Canada has covered for it. We should be using every single tool in the diplomatic and economic arsenal to isolate Israel. I know there's a possible ceasefire happening now. Israel has a history going back decades of violating every agreement with impunity, of escalating the murder of people as deadlines for ceasefires approach, of shifting the focus of the violence. Israel's attacked 7 different countries. There's more killing now on the West Bank, now that killing is temporarily stopped in Gaza. This is not over. And we need to talk about this, and we need to shame our government into much more forthright action than anything we have seen before. Cancel trade deals, recall ambassadors, have no economic relationship whatsoever with a country that has made itself a pariah among nations, not a light among nations, but a darkness descending over the human family. We have to get off fossil fuels. It's no joke. We've known this. It's a scientific fact. We've known it for decades. But only the NDP can put forward a real climate plan to get our country off of fossil fuels and get off the addiction to fossil fuel revenues without making a single worker pay the price. Workers in Alberta, workers in Saskatchewan, workers in British Columbia did not choose where the good jobs were. They didn't choose to grow up in regions where the fossil fuel economy was the dominant economy. It is the fossil fuel corporations, 5 big oil companies. They've made hundreds of billions of dollars in profits in recent years. They refuse to clean up their mess, which is an environmental time bomb in the most beautiful parts of our country, in Alberta and elsewhere. And there are decades and decades of work just cleaning up the mess that is made and obeying the fundamental principle of polluter pays. We have to speak these truths plainly. We have to take care of those workers, and those corporations have to foot the bill for the immense profit that they have sucked out of the land and for the devastation that they have wrought. At every level, we have governments in Canada that are captured by corporations, and they have reshaped our world for maximum profit extraction, and people are suffering. The crisis that we face in Canada above all others right now is the everyday emergency of just trying to get by in an impossible economy. And that cost of living crisis, the price of food, the price of shelter, the dysfunction of transportation, the $100 for a cell phone plan with the crappiest customer service anywhere, that is exactly the field in which fascism plants its seeds. Widespread suffering, despair, and economic hardship is the precursor to the rise of the far right. And that's why it's so urgent that we put forward solutions that will actually solve the problems. What is the antidote? We'll talk about the solutions. We will put forward our solutions forthrightly, but the antidote is organizing. Organizing at scale and at the speed of the crises we face. And that means also that our party needs to be redemocratized. Internal democracy is paramount. Members have to lead the NDP, just like it says in our Constitution, which is a very democratic document. The EDAs, the riding associations, have to be empowered. We have the potential for 343 community organizing hubs across the country that can be resourced and scaled up, that can weave themselves into the lives of our communities, that can do refugee welcoming and mutual aid during pandemics and supporting workers who are going on strike and who are in conflicts with employers. They can be 365-day organizing hubs, and they must be, and we can't abandon any single riding in this country or any region. We have to organize like we mean it. We need to organize in the suburbs where the majority of the working class of Canada lives, the racialized working class majority in Canada. We need to organize in rural Canada where the party has too often given up on the very communities where the CCF and the NDP was born as a farmer worker party. And the party, in my view, has to find its rightful place in this fight. Our role as the NDP in the much wider fight for progressive change in Canada. We need to take our place in a common front. We've seen incredible signs of unions, of union militancy rising. We saw the education workers in Ontario who almost provoked a general strike. I wish there had been one in Ontario a couple of years ago, standing up against the Doug Ford government that was going to violate the charter and roll back union rights. We saw it with the flight attendants, that exhilarating moment just earlier this summer, where they came together in an illegal strike with all the big unions and federations together behind them. And we need that militant and organized union front pushing. Unions are the only force in society that can really disrupt the economy and force the extraction of reforms and concessions from both capital and governments that benefit the working class. And we have powerful social movements in Canada. We saw during Draw the Line, again just a few weeks ago, that movements once again, like they did in the time of the LEAP Manifesto, which was a pan-movement coalition that came together across many different constituencies and issues. We saw this again in Draw the Line just recently: migrant rights, the peace movement, the movement against genocide and for Palestinian liberation, Indigenous rights leading, the climate movement following, and we saw movements coming together. And that's what we need. We need the people who are interested in the electoral front and organized for elections to be part of the NDP front. And then there are unions, and then there are all kinds of social movements. And we have to see this as the left. And we have to grow our confidence and our organizing together. And that means a party that doesn't rush to the front of every parade. That means a party that doesn't sign everyone up in the cult of the leader and have all decisions controlled by a couple of people in the leader's office. That means the humility and the realism of actually fighting for socialism for all in a common front with all social forces that are fighting for the right to a dignified life for all people. And we say working people a lot, and we say working class a lot, but we can't forget that people with disabilities and the fight for disability rights is the last human rights movement that the world has not yet seen on a mass level the way it has seen for racial justice, for feminism, and for other social struggles. Disability rights can never be lost when we think about the totality of all of us. So what does that mean to really commit to democracy and to our rightful place? It means sometimes we have to support unions like the BCGEU, which is on strike right now in my home province of British Columbia, in hard struggles with provincial NDP governments. It means sometimes we have disagreements in the New Democratic family and with other New Democrats. On issues like fossil fuels, we have to be who we are. We have to fight for what we believe in. And I'm going to do that, of course. I've got a long trail of public statements going back 3 decades. There's no way I can escape what I've said that I believe, and nor would I want to. But I believe there's a better way to do it than we've done it before. I believe the NDP has tried to paper over differences with careful messaging and message testing and try to find just the right words to paper over our differences. I believe we can have respectful disagreements within our party. We do it in solidarity. We do it with love. We do it within the vision of a common front, both inside and outside the party. We don't agree on every issue, but we fight together for the fundamentals. We can't be shy about that. And we can't descend into infighting. We need forthright conversations and work together where we align, and we don't give up on each other. The fundamental organizing principle is you meet people where they are and you don't leave them there. And that's the kind of NDP I want to lead. So as Naomi said, we had a first big win for this campaign yesterday. It's a little obscure, but it's really meaningful to me. Just 3 weeks after launching this campaign, the Globe and Mail editorial board found the need to write an editorial disputing our take on the need for a public option for groceries. They lumped me in with Zoran Mamdani, which I'm very delighted to share that company in the lead of this Globe and Mail editorial. But in just 3 weeks, by putting forward solutions at scale and at speed, we have provoked the elites and started a national debate on a public option for food. It shows the importance of leading with our solutions. I don't believe the politics of personal branding and just telling a narrative story about who we are as people. It's not going to get this done. We need more than a popularity contest. We actually need to provide solutions. That's how we're going to win. That's what gets people excited when we organize. So yesterday in the Globe and Mail, we launched a national conversation. We got the debate started. But do we just want to win the argument? We want to win the change. And to do that, we got to get to work. We have to build an unstoppable force in this leadership race. We have to build a huge community of people who agree on what needs to be done. We need to keep building at the base and re-empower the grassroots of the party. And we have to keep pushing the solutions to the everyday emergency. It's about to get worse. The Carney government is about to unleash austerity on Canada. Brutal cuts to public services are coming. And meanwhile, they're pushing these so-called nation-building projects that will create a few jobs, sure, but are mostly about funneling more money to profitable industries. Another big mine or mega project somewhere in this vast land is not going to lower your grocery bill or help you with your rent. So this is the time to put our agenda on the table. People in the chat have been asking about my policies. Go and look at the videos that we put out. We'll have a full platform coming, but let me just touch a couple of them. We need a public option in every area of market failure. The market is failing to deliver food at an affordable price to Canadians. We need a public option. The market is failing to deliver shelter. We are in a housing emergency. We cannot have the market solve this problem. No private developers are going to build so much housing that there's a glut and the price comes down and people can afford homes, whether renting or buying. That's not how the market works. This is a time for a public developer, public construction companies, building out a wartime level of public and nonprofit and cooperative housing that actually meets the needs of Canadians. And if we want a nation building project in this moment, it's not untold military spending or mega projects that will change the character of this country. We can build an economy based on care. 4.2 million people, mostly women, work in the care field, in healthcare, education, long-term care, and childcare. And we are missing more of those workers to actually deliver on a social safety net that functions because we pay care workers like garbage. We won $10 a day daycare in Canada. We have the legislation, we have the federal money, and so many people across this country don't have it because we don't pay daycare workers enough. They should be making $35-40 an hour. We need a fair wage grid at the federal level, a backstop for all provinces, pay care workers, make the things that make Canada different flourish. The care economy is climate work, it's low carbon work. It's work that is done by the people who are most exploited in the economy. That's a nation building project that we can get behind. Indigenous rights are in the news because of these mega projects and these so-called nation building projects. Indigenous rights are not optional, they're law. Free, prior, and informed consent is a fundamental legal principle that must be followed by governments. And it's not just about legal principles, it's about making life better and safer for everyone. We need way more housing in Indigenous communities, both on res and in the cities. We need to keep Indigenous women and girls safe by having functioning public transit that the federal government pays for the operation of on every highway of tears in the country, reconnecting communities and keeping people safe. And we need a Green New Deal. The LEAP Manifesto was the prototype in some ways for what our US comrades call the Green New Deal. We need a Green New Deal for Canada. We need to weave climate solutions into every policy that we need to make people's lives better. We need a green industrial strategy, heat pumps for all, power lines, not pipelines. We need an east-west electricity grid so we can trade renewable energy among provinces rather than selling electricity to the United States. And rather than building damaging pipelines that are not going to even deliver energy for a decade, and in any event are climate bombs and will violate rights and environment all along the way. How about HEPA filters in every single school and solar panels on every roof and every balcony? How about $1 billion youth climate corps to address the youth unemployment crisis and put young people to work in defense of community on the front lines of the climate emergency? How about proportional representation? The next time the NDP has the Liberals over the barrel in a minority government, I think, this is my proposal, it's not party policy, I think we should go in with one demand, the one reform that unleashes all the others, proportional representation, and have a real democracy in our country. We can live in a world where people have a dignified, joyful life with all of the necessities without having to struggle and strive and work for an app and have a miserable life just to barely get by. We can flourish in a country this rich with justice and with dignity in everyday life. And that's why I'm running to be leader of the NDP, to put hope before fear, to offer solutions as big as the crises we face, to fling the doors wide open and build a party for the 99%, and to fight for a government that stops serving the money and starts serving the many. Thank you all for coming. This has been a thrilling call, and I cannot wait to get to work with you. Let's do this thing.
Oh my gosh, Avi, thank you for bringing the energy as you always do. And thank you for holding the line for all of us. You know, they want to make us forget that these options are on the table, that we could have public grocery stores, that we could have a public option for all these ways in which this market is failing us. And you won't let us forget. And you won't let them forget either. So
Nope.
thank you for being that voice for us. I think you've got the chat pretty hyped. You've got 600 people extremely excited on this call.
There's
So
a lot of hearts floating up my screen. Thank
oh
you so
yeah,
much, everyone. Thank you. That's beautiful.
I don't think there's enough emojis in the world. So without further ado, I want to bring on Joel. So Joel is another incredible leader. Joel Harden is our tour director, and many of you know him as a fierce advocate for working people. Joel served as MPP for Ottawa Centre, fighting for affordable housing, workers' rights, and climate justice. Joel knows how to build movements that win. And he's been a long time pillar of the Canadian progressive community, someone I look up to as well. And he's going to show you how to build this movement where you live. So I'll hand it over to you, Joel. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, Anjali. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I hope you can hear me well, coming to you from unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, otherwise known as my beloved Ottawa. You see behind me a path I got to roll on my bike towards my parents this wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Hey, folks, let me give you some updates. This call still has a whole lot of people on it, and let's just bask for a second in what we have already accomplished tonight beyond being inspired by the words that have been shared in this space. We have raised, in this short amount of time we've been on this call together, over $13,000. Over $13,000. Do you know when that poll was done, Anjali, and you asked how many people hadn't joined the NDP yet, and about 70 people 61 people, and we have pledges to sign up 150 from folks who are on this call. So I'm going to make this brief, folks, because we're at the end of tonight's conversation, but it's the beginning of something far more powerful, I believe. I want to remind people that in this movement that we're building together, we have the capacity to not only transform our party, to get our party reconnected to its socialist roots, we have the ability to bring hope back into Canadian politics again. And that will happen when we all pick up, these lovely weapons of mass distraction, as they often are for me, that have inside them contact numbers where we can call family and friends and neighbors and invite them in. As Avi said, this is a movement where everybody belongs. Notre but ce soir, c'est pour s'organiser un mouvement géant. Québécois, Québécoises, aussi possible que nos buts pour notre pays et aussi pour those updates, about $13,000 raised, 150 prospective members, 61 folks joining up tonight. But if every one of us can take the time we have to use the resources we have, we can win. And with that, Anjali, I'm going to throw back to you.
Thanks so much, Joel. Yeah, you're doing incredible work, and I think it's a testament to Avi's leadership and to this campaign that we have leaders like you who are fully on board and using your expertise and your experience to drive this forward. It's great to see you on here. Thanks so much, Joel. So we are now going to do another poll. So there's the donate link again in case you feel inspired after that absolutely firestorm of a speech. There's another poll that should be coming, I believe. There we go. So this is the Barnstorm. This is a poll that asks, can you get some friends together to do one of the following actions? 1 is make calls for Avi. 2 is canvass your neighbors. 3 is host a coffee party. And 4 is enter data. So we need all kinds of expertise and all kinds of experience and actions on this campaign. As you know, in any campaign, you just need so many different kinds of things, and people are suited to do different things. So get in there and see what you would be best suited to do to make this movement grow. And we need organizers and volunteers everywhere, coast to coast to coast. We need them in every community. No community is too small. Wow, this is so cool. We've got a pretty good spread across all of these different actions. And Avi's team is going to be in touch to give more specific instructions about how to actually get involved and how to be a part of the campaign. There's a link that's been put in the chat by the LFL tech support, the Lewis for Leader tech support. There's a page on the website where you can go sign up and volunteer. Team Avi just put that in the chat once again. All right, yeah, this poll is looking pretty good. So pretty even spread across making calls for Avi, canvassing your neighbors, hosting a coffee party, quite a bit of support for that one, and entering data. Some of these are really flexible things, like entering data. You can do that, on your own time and off the side of your desk. And a party is for the more social among us. This is big organizing. This is how it happens. Kitchen table conversations, face-to-face conversations, every person taking leadership and using their own expertise. All right, folks. So that brings us to the end of our call. What a wonderful time we had together. A lot of people stayed on this call from start to finish. Tonight, we took action together in multiple ways. We raised thousands of dollars. We grew our party's membership. We pledged to recruit more people, and we committed to organize where we live in our communities. This is just the beginning. This is only the first organizing call. There are many more to go and a few months left before, once again, our inevitable victory in March. So the work starts now, tonight. This is the official organizing kickoff. And I call upon you to go into your networks and go into your spheres of influence and your clubs, organizations, institutions that you're a part of, and to really weave politics and this political opportunity into your everyday life for the next few months. So thank you for being here. Thank you for organizing. Proud to stand alongside all of you. And let's make Avi the next leader of the NDP.